Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture what we will do is that we will go ahead and learn how to basically go ahead and create this kind of structure which is going to store multiple values related to multiple people. So in the previous lecture we have learned how to add multiple people's names to our database, which was quite a bit of simple thing to do. But in this lecture what we will do is that we will learn how to add multiple fields to multiple users as well. So let's say you have a certain number of people in your database, so those people are actually going to hold up attributes like name, contact, location and everything like that. So we are going to learn exactly how to do that. So this is actually a proper structure to do that. So this right here is your application, which is going to have a root which is going to be called as users, and here what we are basically doing is that we are creating a new kind of structure. So in the structure what we do is that we eliminate that weird looking ID by replacing that ID with the username itself. And here we are making an assumption that our database is not going to have unique number of people. So here I have taken an example where we use the main parent as the name itself. So let's say if you want to access information related to Tom, so you do need to have access to Tom, so Tom is going to be your main root to get values related to Tom. And a good way to avoid this kind of things is by using something unique in your application itself. So what you could do is that you could use contact number here to identify Tom instead of using his name, but just for the sake of simplicity I have used this kind of thing. So what we will do is that we will learn how to design a database like this and how to basically go ahead and add multiple values to a particular person. So without wasting any time, let me just open up the Firebase console. And as we want this kind of structure, the first thing which we need to do is that we need to delete this thing. So let me just go ahead, delete names. And in here what we will do is that we will again create users. So the name is going to be users, and we are going to create a child of users, and that's going to be Tom. And Tom is not going to have another value. Instead it's actually going to have two fields or two children, which is name and contact. So we have name over here, and the name is going to be Tom obviously. And to add one more child to this, you go back over here, click this plus sign, and you are free to add a new child over here. So the new child is contact, and the value is going to be some random number. So this is actually not Tom's real number, it's just a random value which I have typed in. So keep that thing in mind. So when I click add, as you could see, now the structure is created. So now what we wish to do here is that we wish to add another user just like Tom to this particular database. So let's go ahead and do that in our application. So let me just take this thing to another screen, and after this let's go to the user interface, and you do need to add another edit text over here so that we are also able to insert the contact of that particular person. So let me just go ahead, create an edit text that's going to be match parent and wrap content, and that's going to have a hint which says enter contact, and the above one is going to say enter name, and the below one is going to have an ID which is @+ID contact. Okay, so once we have a reference to this thing, we are basically good to go. So the next thing which we do is that we hop on to the main activity, and in here what we do is that we get a reference to the edit text which we already have, and now what we do is that we get a reference to the second edit text as well. So edit text, let's say contact equals, let's say we typecast it to edit text, that's going to be find view by id r.id that's going to be contact. And once we have these two things, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to set the child values first. So what we wish to do here is that if you actually open up the Firebase, as you could see, the first thing which you need to do is that you need to set this value, then you could actually go ahead and set up the values for contact and name. And this child value is actually going to be set up as the name value. So what we do here is that we first get the name value from the edit text. So let's create a child variable, and let's get the text from the edit text. So that's going to be edit text name dot get text dot toString. So once we have this value, what you could do is that you could get a reference to the child. So we type myref equals database dot get reference, and we get a reference to the users first, as we have done previously. And once we have a reference to the users, you could straight away call a reference to the child, and you need to set this child value to this child variable, which is nothing but the name which you have entered. So let's pass in child over here. And now once we have passed in the value of child, that is, once we have set this value, now you need to set the name and contact value over here. So in order to do that, we again get a reference by typing myref.child, and we want a reference to name in this case, and we set the value of name to edit text name dot get text dot toString. Now what you could have done here is that you could have also passed this value, which is same as this thing right here, but just to avoid confusion, I have taken the longer route. And now the contact value is going to be set. So myref.child, that's going to be contact dot set value, that's going to be edit text contact dot get text dot toString. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are basically good to go. So let me just save the code and run this application on my device and show you guys how this thing actually works. Okay, so as you could see, the application is up and running, and let me just pull up Firebase. So let's enter a new name, which is going to be called as Rob, and the contact is, let's say, some random number. And when I hit click, as you could see, now a new value is added to name, and I guess the contact value is not added up over here, and there might be some issue in the app. And I guess when you go ahead and add a new value, you do need to go ahead and rebuild your project. So I'm actually facing this problem since quite a while. So what I'll do here is that I'll quickly go ahead and rebuild my project. So if you don't know how to rebuild your project or clean your project, first you go to build, first you click clean project, and it's actually going to take a while for your project to get cleaned. And once the project is clean, you could basically go ahead, again go to build and click on rebuild project, and that should basically fix your issues. Okay, now I guess we have rebuilt the project quite successfully. So now we could again go ahead and run this application. So let me just go ahead and again start recording my screen. Okay, so as you could see, the application is up and running, and hopefully it should run fine this time. So let me just enter the new name as Rob, and let's say the contact is some random value. So when I hit click, we are having the same error, and I guess we do have some mistake in the code itself. So let me just go ahead and quickly check for that. And I'm actually glad that I have this kind of error, because I'll be able to show you guys how to solve this kinds of errors. Okay, yeah, so the problem with this was that we actually have the code from the previous lecture as well, and I actually forgot to delete this, and that's why we have this kind of error over here. So let me just go ahead and quickly comment this code out, and this was the one which was actually causing an error. So once I commented that thing out, we are basically good to go. So I'm going to again run this application and see if it works, and this time I'm sure that it will work. I actually almost forgot to delete that code from the previous lecture. And let me just record my screen again, and let's add a new entry this time, and let's say we have Chris this time, and let's say the contact number is some other value. So when I hit click, as you could see, now we do have a proper value added as Chris. And you could basically go ahead and ignore this. This is due to my silly error which was caused in the previous lecture. So now, as you could see, a new contact has been added who is named as Chris. And just to give it a try that everything, and just to show you guys everything works fine, let's go ahead and replace this name with some another name like Sai. And let me just enter another value for contact, and when I hit click, as you could see, now Sai is added as well. and he has its own unique name and its own unique contact number. So that's it for this lecture, and hopefully you guys learned a lot from this lecture. So you also learned how to avoid mistakes while coding Android applications. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys were able to understand how to add multiple field values to your Firebase database, and in this manner you could create more complex structure so that you are basically able to add more complex things to your applications, or more user data to your application. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.